thing? Is it two? I know, I have.
Almost. Let's just test the audio.
Okay.
Can you hear us, Andy?
I can hear you a little bit. Can you hear me?
We can't hear you.
Hmm.
Oh, let me see, maybe the volume, let's see. Okay, how about that? Can you hear us?
Try again.
Okay, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, we can hear you.
You can't hear me?
Yes, we can. Okay, can
You
you
can.
say something?
Okay, can you turn up the volume at all?
Let's see, okay, I just turned it up to max.
Oh, good, good. I got it. Okay. I'm going to step away for just 1 second. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Is that too loud? Should Andy be 2 dots past the low max? Are you all
I
right?
can do 1, 2.
As long as you can hear us, I
We can adjust it however we
can
want.
do this.
Huh? Don't hold your ear.
Are you by
Hey,
the speaker?
I'm back.
Good.
Thanks, hi, Andy.
Hi,
Okay.
Barbara. Hey, Dave. Hi,
Hey.
Lisa.
Hi.
God, you all look so far away. Oh, I see Ray. All right.
Let me.
Wow.
Sounds like
Around the road,
yeah, exactly. We got a
I see
fishbowl there.
Deborah, and I see, anyone else?
All right,
I see you.
ready to go?
Waiting for the host to start the meeting. I think we can start, we have quorum.
We have a quorum. All right, it's 2:01 on Friday the 13th. We won't make anything of that at all. And we are opening the Library Finance Committee meeting on an unusual day and unusual time, in case you are tuned in and wondering why we're meeting today. Hello. Hello. We do have one of our commissioners who is joining the meeting on Zoom. Do I have to make any particular announcement about that or ask him about the 18-year-olds or?
No, because he is joining under the customary teleconferencing. So he's good.
Okay. So I'm slightly rusty. I haven't done a finance committee meeting chair leadership thing for about 5 years, so anyway, bear with me. Do we have any public comment to begin the meeting?
There are no members of the public here. There were no comments received via email. And if you can, before moving forward, call the roll.
Turn my page to call to order. Alrighty, I'm calling us to order, and I will ask for, people to answer the call. Commissioner Cahill,
Here.
Commissioner Doyle,
Here.
Commissioner Elkine,
Here.
and I myself am here. So we're all here. Any announcements, anyone? No announcements? Public appearances? Nobody's here and no one's online with us?
No.
For discussion, we're going to, move up item 4.2 and start with that. The Facilities Capital Improvement Program. And I will toss that off to who would like to start. Would that be Erica or Myrna or Dave
Or Dara?
Or Dara, who didn't.
or Dara?
One sheet with me.
Apologies, Dara.
Yeah, I can give you the presentation.
I have the click share, so you can
I'll just make it real casual,
click. Okay.
and I'll sit down and we'll go over each slide. And I have a lot of notes here, but I'm not gonna read all this stuff, this introductory slide. You know, we all know that libraries are central community institutions and that kind of stuff, so I'm not gonna bore us with those over and over again. But the Sonoma County Library's Facilities Capital Improvement Program, this pamphlet is a improvement and prioritization strategies are all laid out in this pamphlet. They're designed to create a modern, sustainable, and accessible library system that meets all the evolving needs of the community. So by engaging with stakeholders, aligning projects with strategic goals, and employing a thoughtful prioritization process, the library is committed to providing a world class. So part of an improvement, we go through an overview of stuff, and so We talk about, expanding our services at the locations. We talk about, constructing new branches as well. Technology upgrades are very, important. Our prioritization strategies are community engagements and needs assessment, which we did with the reimagining plan. Alignment with that plan is the second, strategy. Cost benefit analysis, which is a return on our investment. That's part of the equation. Sustainability and environmental impact. As you all know, every project we've done has a CEQA thing in there, so that's part of the process. And then implementation, right? So we decide how we're going to bring that project forward, whether it's a build design or it's like a in-house project or that, and that I'll go over more detail on that in a later slide. So, this is all redundant information for us, but I'll go over as fast as I can. We have 17 locations and 16 libraries across the county. The facilities master plan is a 3 to 10 year outlook of all our capital improvement needs and all our service needs. It's a very encompassed, broad range of coverage in that facilities master plan. It's just not buildings. And the facilities capital improvement program is the status of all our major funded projects at the moment in the next 3 to 5 years. It's not a full 10-year, this is what needs to happen and how we're going to do it. Since we don't own any of these buildings, our scope is a little bit reduced. Move on to the next slide. This is what the program includes. So it includes, when we do a modernization, it includes ADA upgrades. It includes some critical infrastructure, mainly our restrooms. We have a goal of gender neutral where possible, and so that's generally the critical infrastructure that we do. Although, in a building that we own, our annex history genealogy building, we're doing major infrastructure with the replacement of HVAC system and electrical system. So, and then the third component of our program is FF&E, so service modernization, enhancing the spaces and equipment. I can go into more detail of each of those if you need to, or we can wait and we can ask questions about that at the end.
I think keep going.
Oh, Andy has his hand raised.
Oh, Andy.
Excuse me, Dave. Before you, can you hear me?
Yep.
Before you go to the next slide, I had a question about the 5-part cycle here, which was not described in the slide. What does number 2, delivery methods, refer to?
Well, that's perfect segue into the next one.
Okay, so I guess my question then would be, why does that happen as step 2 rather than after the following step?
Oh, okay. So you need to know your delivery method before you can budget for it. So it's good to know how you're going to deliver before you fund.
You're talking about delivering the project rather than
Right.
delivering books. I don't
Right,
know.
right. Delivering a project.
Yeah.
And what delivery means is this is how we're going to get it completed. So,
Well,
so basically we use three different project delivery methods, at the library. So we do in-house work, which is the top one. Then we do design build, which is the kind of situation we're getting in with, the Roseland situation. And then we have design build, which is how we're doing Petaluma, Lincoln Valley, and Hillsburg. And those are generally how we're going to deliver a project, design build.
Sorry, I have a question also.
Sure.
Sorry, Chair McKenzie. The ADA upgrades, before we had Measure Y funding, did the library take care of ADA upgrades? Did we never do them because we didn't have the money? It seems that, I can get that we're doing FF&E, but I would have thought that the building owners would be responsible for ADA. No?
No, our
Okay.
leases are pretty clear that we're responsible for interior ADA.
Okay,
It's another one of the interior, exterior
Yes,
positions.
yes.
Parking lots and all that other stuff should be the.
And so in our ADA transition plan, which helped us create this plan, they bifurcated the interior and exterior work, so we could budget properly.
So Andy, did you get your question answered?
No, I didn't actually. So thanks for coming back to me. I have two questions, Dave. First, design build, I understand that's what we're doing in Healdsburg and Petaluma. It's not really defined here. I understand that with design bid build, you have an architectural and engineering design process, and then there's bidding for the contractor. Could you talk in a little bit of detail about how design build is different? And then on the previous slide, my question is, I understand that you would need to determine the delivery method before you went to step 4. My question is, why do you need to determine the delivery method before the prioritization? That felt a little bit out of sequence to me. I'll take my answers from you. Thank you.
Okay,
Cost can weigh in.
yeah, cost is a factor in there. Really, 2 and 3 should be like combined as one, but, you could do either one in any order, as far as that goes. But you kind of want, you want to know, because it's gonna, you don't have to, so where you're kind of confused with design bid build, you kind of define that as what design build is. So design build, bid build is a architect and a general contractor team up together to deliver a project. So you don't have to put the project out to bid once you design it. It's all done at one time. The design, you already have a contractor, they're a team with the architect. So that's called design bid build. And then those teams bid on the job as a whole, design and construction. And so design build is we design it first, then we put it out to bid, then we build it. Does that answer your question?
Right up to the last thing, I think you misspoke. The last thing you were talking about was design bid build, where you design it, put it out to bid, and then build it. Whereas design build, I thought you were saying it's a combined architecture and contractor effort. It does not have to go out to a subsequent bid.
Right, you have the definitions correct, the labels are mixed up. So your definition for design build is actually the definition for design bid build, and your definition for design bid build is design build.
So walk them through it again.
It's more like design, bid build, and design, then build is a more accurate way of describing what a design bid build is. You're designing it, then you bid it, and then you get a contractor to do the work. So it's a multi-part process with design build, whereas with the design bid build, it's all one, everything's wrapped up together.
But it's confusing because the definition here under design bid build
Right.
says that the contractor is selected through competitive bid
They are.
as opposed to being part of the team, which is how I thought you
Oh,
were.
the teams compete as teams against each other.
Yes.
So like for Roseland, for example, we have a team with Nolan Tam and then a construction crew. And then we have a team with Jason Architects and Kawasaki Architects and a contractor. And then we have a third team, which I can't remember all their names, because there's so many names to remember. And then they're a team also with a contractor and a design team.
Okay, so
And
if
they
they're
bid
part
on
of the team,
Yeah.
why then does the contractor get selected through competitive bid instead of being part of the
Oh,
team?
because you still have to, the RFP that goes out is, we want an architect, and we need you to bid as teams.
Right,
Yeah, so
An
that's the
architect and a
RFP,
builder.
you still have to send out an RFP for a design bid build. That's what we want. We'd want a design bid build project, and then those people that need to do the work, they have to find their partners, and then they bid as a team.
right.
That sounds like the
So-
definition of design build.
But
I'm
Yeah, I
not gonna
think we're
belabor
getting-
this. My request is, if this is gonna go to the full commission, you gotta get this clearer. This is really jumbled and confusing.
I agree with you, Andy, and I think, Ray had a comment.
I was
and
gonna suggest that, we take this in and we wordsmith it before it goes to
Okay.
the commission.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Did you hear that, Andy? Wordsmith it in a more clear way before it goes to the commission.
If we
Thank you.
just pull this out and put team instead, we're good.
It's because it is.
All right, so that's,
Clear to some.
so there's some work to be done on the definitions of the different types of delivery, okay? Let's see if I have a better definition in here. The design build process.
Okay, we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
We don't need to do that now, but I agree with Ray, thank you.
All right, so the prioritization, criteria, so, so this is the ranking that Barbara was looking for last time, that we did not have in the pamphlet at that time, but now it is in there. First, the core criteria is safety and compliance, asset preservation, operational impact, and the reimagining plan alignment. So safety and compliance evaluates the potential for the program or the project to how it impacts safety, right? Of employees, customers, and the environment. So, okay, asset preservation is, does this project, preserve the assets? Are we replacing the assets? Is it going to have a negative effect on assets? And then the operational impact, is where public services has their most, how does this affect their day-to-day operations? So also we want to improve productivity, efficiency, and customer satisfaction. So when we're looking at the design, we want to implement that kind of stuff. And then the last one in those criteria is the reimagining plan alignment, and that's pretty self-explanatory. Does this project align with our long-term strategic goals? Does it have expected benefits? And what's the payback period if there is one? Like, so when we do a solar, or like the annex project is gonna has a payback period of where we get a return on our investment over 10 years, and then what our costs have been reduced over that time. We have within the report, last commission meeting, what that savings was over that period of time. So, and then there's also additional considerations. I just talked about return on investment, services, so funding is also,
Okay, I'd like to stop here just for a second.
sure.
So as you mentioned, I have been the one who's been bugging you about what are our priorities, what's the list, who gets what when, right?
Right.
So, but what this really is prioritization criteria for doing that.
Right.
We still don't have a list, as far as I know, of, okay, but is that the order that we are committed to doing things in? That's what I'm looking for.
Well, committed as far as what we have funding for, you can see that it pretty much, our list stops like right here, although, currently we have a small Windsor project going on and a small Cloverdale one, because funding became available, like, out of nowhere,
Okay,
for
what,
Cloverdale.
So that would be our
Right, the only thing that
prioritization
we-
list. I don't know why I'm struggling with that word, but there are exceptions or things that unexpectedly happen, like Windsor redoing their carpet gave us an opportunity since we were gonna have to
Jump in.
close, let's just jump in and do it now.
no,
So
no.
there would be some variables like that, or let's say Cloverdale, we get a sudden donation. So there are things that could shuffle order, but it's not an intention, it's just something arises that makes it, make sense to.
Well, I still think they're probably two different things.
Okay.
These are the criteria, and then we should have a list that we're going to be doing these libraries in order, with the exception that if we get
Have
special
something.
donations or something comes up.
Yeah.
But if I'm, for example, go over to Sonoma Valley and before, appeared before the Sonoma City Council, and I go, well, when's our library coming up?
Mhm.
Well, you're, 10th on the list of 13, or something like that. If like whatever, just to be clear, so people know what order they're in. Not just that we have a criteria, that we have a plan. And I know later on, we're gonna get to this point, that we're supposedly only going to, look at 3 to 5 years, but, somebody who's at the bottom of the list, you know, they keep cycling at the, you know, we can't commit to anything. And they're all JPO partners who have need to have a realistic idea of when they're,
But when we
projects
finish
are coming
these
up.
projects, so when we finish Petaluma and we finish Healdsburg, it's going to the bottom of the list.
Yeah, 'cause
And
their
all those other
score-
projects move up.
Right, their score
Right.
gets reduced, because now it's gonna be all ones there.
so the related question is, does this imply a full renovation of the library? It does
No.
not.
No.
Okay, so that's the point. So this is probably in order of the way something happens to the libraries. But if Sonoma asks us, what are you gonna do to our library? We might be able to tell them approximately where they are on the list, not exactly when it's gonna happen, and we're not gonna be able to tell them what's included in it.
We
I mean-
will, because the facilities master plan lists all of the things that need to be addressed
In that building.
in
Okay.
that building.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it should also say, this is a priority criteria, this is a priority list, this is what will be done. Whatever is in our plan as it's continually updated.
That, we always refer back to the facilities master plan. So all of those details are not meant to be in this document. This document really is looking at what we can handle now. If we to look at what other projects we have are in the master facilities plan. That was a very thorough analysis of all the buildings, and that's where all the details are held.
But just as long as it's more than an assumption, it's some sort of statement, that what this means is when your number's up on this list, this is what we're gonna do. See master facilities plan for what it all will be entailed. And I don't think that connection is necessarily made. And on top of it, we are to do a new master facility plan every 3 years, right?
It's an update.
Hmm?
It would be an update. So then what
Yeah.
we would update is, hey, we did Petaluma, we did the annex, we did Healdsburg, you know, and then that changes the whole priority of what's going next. And then also, you know, the biggest factor of all of it is available funding.
Funding.
So, you know,
Okay, so, I guess we're gonna get to funding, and we'll put that off for just a second. Did you have something?
I was just gonna say, it really does depend on funding. You know, we can say, this is the list of all the things, and have done.
right.
Great facilities master plan, there's a great list of all of the things that are wrong, that could be improved but there is no way that we're going to do a full upgrade for the Windsor Library if we don't start fundraising in Windsor. You know, the library's not gonna pay for all of it, just the libraries. So when a project comes up with the money, which we're gonna get to, then that project might move its way up the list, because we can't wait. We can't wait for the money and there are always gonna be projects to be done, so.
I think there's more verbiage to be added to the prioritization presentation, which includes things like that. But, you know, wait till we get to the money. I don't wanna get us off track here.
Andy has,
Andy, did you
Andy
have
has a
a
hand
question, comment?
Well, I'm just going to weigh in, and Barbara, I understand that you really want to have certainty looking out far into the future. I don't think that's realistic because of the funding issues. We have here, I think, a document that's covering projects for the foreseeable future, which is 3 to 5 years. We have the facilities master plan, which lays out the needs for all of our facilities over a longer period of time. That's going to be continually updated every 3 years. And as funding becomes available or partner initiative comes into play, or we are able to get grants, some of these things are going to change, and they'll move from the longer term future to the immediate 3 to 5 year window, and we'll have more certainty about it. That feels comfortable to me.
Okay, that's the kind of language I would like to see included in here, references to grants and funding and stuff like that, because as we know, we are funding some of these projects at a much higher level than we're going to fund other projects, and so, you know, let's mention that. Anyway, let's, go on, Dave. I think we're on, current capital projects.
Right, so here are, you know, all our currently funded projects. So this is just a recap of what we went over last, finance meeting.
Okay, my comment about that, did anybody else have any comments before I, Dave?
Yeah, two of these include the word critical maintenance.
Right.
And I looked at the sheets, I don't see what's critical. What's gonna happen here?
Well, so critical infrastructure is just referring to that there's grant money involved, possibly, you know, when we did the Rincon Valley, it didn't get the grant, so.
So footnote, critical means grant related?
Yeah, it's pretty much grant related if it says critical.
Well, let's clarify
Well,
that, I think that's a
so,
good point.
as in, we receive money from the infrastructure grant, is that what you mean?
Exactly, yeah, 'cause they
So
call
it's
it the critical
specifically
infrastructure,
critical
building forward critical
infrastructure
grant. So
maintenance.
that's why.
Well,
Okay.
Okay, so let's
I think we
let's
need-
spell
We
that out.
can edit out of
Yeah, you
Lincoln,
can take that
but
out.
leave it in the annex, because that's,
David?
I think we ought to take out the word critical unless there's a safety concern.
Because it makes it sound more,
It sounds like the roof is falling in
Right,
tomorrow.
exactly.
okay.
The walls are crumbling.
Right.
Well, that was kind of the point.
Glad to hear.
With the annex.
Okay,
Okay, any other questions on this slide?
yes, where is Central?
Central is not on the list because
No.
it's
But see, that's the one that falls through the cracks always, but, you know.
it does, because we don't have any commitments there yet. So we haven't signed a design contract yet, they're still developing a proposal. And this is just trying to reflect what we have committed funding for, you know?
But then, I mean, it's very clearly been in our budget document for past
It has,
years.
it
And
has.
it says central modernization begins its planning phase, spring of 2024, so did that already happen?
Yes.
The planning phase is 18 months, the scope, well, blah, 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 and all this stuff. So it's clearly a project that we have
Right.
on the books.
Mhm.
And it doesn't show in here, and I think it should. I don't know, we'll talk about the money part of this, but it's misleading to think that these are early
Sure,
projects
I get
going
it.
on. David?
I guess
Yeah.
the part of to respond to that, part of the issue is that we could, in this FCIP, include projects like, Central to just show what we have committed, what the library has committed. But it wouldn't be the full, cost of the work, because what is committed right now is the planning phase to determine what the scope will be. So that's why we decided not to include it,
But then, you know, nobody knows about it, it kind of falls out of sight, out of mind, and yet there's a clear commitment on our part,
Right,
at least
in
through
the
the
narrative, yeah.
planning, to do something.
Yeah.
We aren't gonna go through this chunk and go, oh, no, we're not gonna do it, are we? I
Right.
mean, is that
Well,
I mean, we
a
could
possibility?
potentially, right?
Yeah.
If it was too costly.
right. Well, or we can't get enough partnership, you know, that would kill it too.
David?
Yeah, well, I would point out that on table one, Central is listed. It's not in this,
Right,
it's here.
because this is our criteria, but this
Okay, but
is
it's
what
on
we're
the-
working on.
Yeah.
It's on the
it's on
list,
the list, yeah.
the last one, the measurement.
Because that list has all the locations.
And that's
I know.
everybody on it.
Yeah.
And not everybody is getting stuff done, but we are
Right.
doing something on Central right now.
And if you notice,
Started
yeah,
constructing it.
Well, we're really in an evaluating and planning phase of what could we do.
right.
So with the Rincon Valley project, we have hired a architect. And we have, you know, approved that contract, they signed that contract, they're designing. We haven't even gotten to that stage yet with an architect, where we have identified an architect, but we haven't gotten any proposals from them, we haven't gotten any,
major commitment.
major
Concepts,
commitments, yes.
No concepts or anything yet, we kicked that off next month.
But we do have this page in our budget
Right.
document, and we've had it for this year and last year, which clearly indicates overall project costs. And there's a guidance for us to
Right.
know how much money we may need to have, because, you know, and I believe when I brought this up the first time, Erica, you mentioned this, a placeholder, because, you know, we don't know how much it's gonna
Yeah.
cost.
Right.
But probably at least about $5 million is some sort of a
It's just starting.
number to put in there, right? But we need to know about that as we have these future discussions.
Right, because our forecast, you know, for that, our FCA reports, our ADA reports, it's like $20 million to refurbish that. Well, we can't do that, that's,
Right.
right?
Well,
So that's pie in the sky, so, you know, what would it take to just do the carpet and the shelving and that kind of stuff? That's how we're looking at Central, but, and it's still, that's probably low,
Okay,
that's fine.
so is it fair to say at least $5 million?
At least,
And we
that
are
is
looking at the project.
Right.
We're
right,
planning on it.
we
It's
are
on the books.
possibly pausing that project.
But we don't know that yet.
right,
And
You heard it from me first.
or reconsidering, you know,
Yeah.
the timing of that project.
David?
What does it mean in reality, be in the planning phase? Can this be,
Right.
can you plan for 10 years
No,
without doing anything else?
well, I mean, that's happened in the past, you know, they planned and had drawings for the Petaluma modernization, 2007, and never came to fruition. And those plans got, you know, so all the energy and resources invested in that planning were just for naught. But there's, I mean, in this situation, in capital, there's a lot of planning that we're gonna do, and it's not gonna happen, because one, we can't afford it, or two, it's not a responsibility. Two, so,
Well, I don't mean to be surly, but could you say with a straight face, yes, we're planning, which means we have a meeting every 2 months? Would that be enough to put this in the planning stage?
I would say so, but we haven't even met that much on.
Yeah,
Well,
doesn't mean much.
I think that it's important to show that it's
Okay.
not just a dream. We have it in our documents. We're going forward. The pausing or not pausing discussion needs to happen, you know, separately, but we need to show it. That, because of the total consideration of our dollars that we have.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on, this page?
Just a question, do we think it's going to be in the next 3 to 5 years?
I don't know, I'm having talks with the city, you know,
Okay.
and,
So
I
if
mean,
it's not within the 3 to 5 years, then.
No, not within
Then we
the,
might wanna say.
We better not have it in our documents.
Well, then reduce the.
take out the narrative on that.
We're planning it in the spring of 2024, says our budget document.
That was, the budget you're looking at was developed in March of this year. So there has been a lot of, information and updates that these are the meetings right now where you're getting the latest information about, so your questions hopefully will be answered today.
Here, today?
Yeah.
All right.
The conclusion. All right, so this is just a critical, communication tool for the commission and for us internally. It helps us, you know, it's also all these good reasons to have a little cheat sheet like the FCIC is. I keep it, I made a little booklet out of it, so I can carry it with me wherever I go, so that if there's questions, I can just pull it out. It's like a pocket guide for me, so I really like it for that reason. But it just helps us, you know, with the work we need to do.
Are there any other, David?
Yeah, I'd like to see some language added to the fact that a lot of this is guesswork. Essentially, you might even say this is guesswork. And so not to rely on this, or,
It's a living document.
not only that, but it's
Evolved.
Well,
very,
even as we're speaking, it's
very vague, and it doesn't have any enforceable promises.
right.
Like, if I were on the Healdsburg City Council, I shouldn't bother with this thing, because what's here isn't enforceable, it's not part of the contract.
Well, I've got to be able to say, this is our plan.
Well, this is our plan, yes. Yes. To the best of our ability, this is the current information of all of them.
Right, subject to change and
Without,
public knowledge of our changes.
Right.
So my comment, did anybody else have a comment about the final question, or Andy, are you good, or,
It's got thumbs
Yeah,
up.
I'm fine.
can't see that? All right, my request would be, I think we need to have some sort of mention here, a reference to the JPA, the obligations of the parties, the historical understanding, and, then our lease, basis of our leases is library takes care of the inside, cities go back. Because I think that got lost for years and years, and it's one of the reasons the JPA was redone, because it got into the whole argument about who's gonna pay for the HVAC and filters.
But that's not what the JPA says. The JPA says that the library and the JPA partners will work together on major infrastructure, including HVAC and other, I mean, that's what it says. The lease says one thing, but the JPA has a different demarcation of what the responsibilities are.
Well, you know, it's not to me to decide today what it should say. I just don't see any reference in this whole planning document that if, under the auspices of joint powers agreement, and there are responsibilities that jurisdictions have, I would like something added along those lines. David?
Yeah, with regard to that, this has come up a lot because it's a critically important issue. Phase. And, the former chair, who was in Cloverdale,
Reese Watson.
yes, Reese asked our then lawyer, Ann Keck, for a legal opinion on this, and I have copies, and I think you've all got copies. She says she helped draft this. JP was drafted expressly not to include the obligation of any JPA partner to pay a penny to the library, quote unquote. So that it is not a set of obligations expressed in the JPA about forcing cities to pay, because it's not there, and she made sure it was not included, because that's what she was told to do.
Okay, well, whatever the language is, that's close to the truth.
Yes, well,
Let's put something in there.
we have it on the third page. We can add the specific language.
Citation.
Yes.
If you, I'm sure that you can come up with that opinion by Ann Keck if you wanted.
I don't,
Maybe not.
And also works for the county.
Yes.
That's the J, yeah.
Right, yeah.
we
Which
didn't,
means she has a conflict of interest.
Her interest was perfectly clear.
I didn't get the documents, I just walked in the door, so all I have is the slides in my packet. Yeah. We did get that, right?
Yeah, it's right
Just when we
underneath
walked
your
in.
spreadsheet to your right. It's not in your binder.
Yeah, it was,
Right there.
it was also in the last
Yeah,
month.
there's just the priority sheet got put in, that was the only change to the document. Okay. Am I
Right.
finished?
I
Yeah, go ahead.
think, are we done grilling Dave?
Yes.
Dave
It wasn't
Key?
so bad. Wasn't a roast.
No more questions? No more questions of Dara?
And read the.
Well, I'll still be here, so.
You guys want me to stay, Sarah? You want
No, you
to
don't.
meet me? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Dana.
Thank you, Dave.
Talk to you guys.
Let's go back to 4.1. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Guys have a great weekend.
You too.
You too.
Oh, is it because we're in Teams?
How about under more?
Anyway.
Oh,
Can you read it
there you
every
go.
day?
Oh, okay, all right.
Blue workflow, yes.
Okay, so we're in the month of September, and there's obviously several items on the agenda today, but the one that we had been planning for specifically is the outlook for fiscal year 25 revenue. Other than that, no other changes are made to, well, there are no changes made to this workflow at this time. So next month, we will be looking at the Q1 capital project update and possible additional appropriations. So, you'll see a lot of capital. Yeah.
Any other questions? I have a question, but I'll wait. Andy, anybody? Questions? My question, it was probably on the last time, I didn't notice it, but in, the March Finance Committee, April Commission, I see pension valuation 5-year forecast, it says tentative. is the fact that we're going after a consultant's report to do a pension valuation tentative, or their results would be tentative? Is it already in process? Where are we with that?
Tentative meaning, I wasn't sure if the month of March would be the date that we would receive it. The plan is to have a valuation. It has not been started. So given that we have not started, at this time, the best estimate is that you'll see it in March, but
Okay.
that's, I'm not promising that it's gonna be in March
Okay, that's
at
fine.
this time.
No, that's fine. I just wondered if we'd started it. You gonna use the same consultant that you had the last time, or are you? decided?
I'm not sure. I have to see, I'd like to get several quotes to see about, the best.
Okay. And we're required to do the OPEB valuation every 2 years?
Mhm.
And is there a requirement on the pension valuation? I
There's
can't remember.
there's no requirement on the
It's just
pension.
good planning. Yeah. Any other questions? Great. Thank you, Myrna. Okay, let's go on to, what is this next? Fund balance update, proposed budget adjustments to close a revenue shortfall. Not a word we like to see on our agenda.
Right, I understand. Well, there are two major updates that I wanted to give today, regarding our financial position. And one is that what we've been waiting for, is the statement of special fund activity as of June 30th, 2024, at the closing of last fiscal year, which does then have an impact on the current fiscal year. So today, I am presenting the updated statement of special fund activity for property tax and sales tax. Copies of those were in your packet. This is where the fund balance is tracked. Committed fund balances for stabilization fund, the capital improvement program, audit adjustments are recorded in this financial statement. And after recording all of the items that commit some level of fund balance, the statement calculates the fund balance available for budgeting, or what we like to say sometimes is unrestricted. In addition, I am presenting a plan to resolve the much-discussed sales tax revenue shortfall for fiscal year '24 and into '25. The commission has various decisions before it. Therefore, the commission is looking forward to receiving these updates. And I'm presenting these items to the Finance Committee first for your feedback and recommendations moving forward. The next slide, this chart shows the history of fund balance available for budgeting since the inception of Measure Y. Sales tax was collected in 2017. So, fiscal years 17 through 24 are actuals, and fiscal year 24 is yet unaudited. Fiscal year 25 is an estimate based on the adopted budget. It does not reflect the proposed budget adjustments that we will be discussing later. Fiscal year 26 is a forecast based on assumed flat operating revenues and operating and capital expenditures. The blue bars show property tax, the green ones is sales tax, and the green line above is the combined total. The combined fund balance reached its greatest balance at almost $25 million at the end of fiscal year 1920. As you may recall, was the onset of the pandemic and public agencies were shuttered. In FY 21-22, the fund balance decreased because the commission established the committed fund balances for the modernization projects and maintenance of IT and facilities. So that further committed additional funds. Fund balance increased the following 2 years. And the next slide, we'll take a closer look at fiscal year 24, 25, and 26. So here, fiscal year '24 are actuals taking into account year-end figures and adjustments. It is, these are rounded dollars, and these are also unaudited. As you know, we're going through our audit right now for fiscal year '24. So property tax, is 13.6 million at the end of the year, and sales tax $10.6 million. Fiscal year '25, the current fiscal year, fund balance is an estimated based on the adopted budget. So it's not adjusted, but this is what was adopted in June. This will then be trued up at the year end, and what you see here again does not reflect any budget adjustments that will be discussed later. But, and they will, any adjustments do have an impact on fund balance available for budgeting. So these estimates are approximately property tax 12.1 million, sales tax at 10.5 million for a total of 22, for a total of 19 million. Yeah. 19.9 million. As you can see, fiscal year '25 fund balance is less than the prior year, and both in both funds, they decreased because we bolstered the stabilization fund and increased it from 15% to 20% of all expenditures. In addition, the library has broken ground on 2 major modernization projects, the Petaluma and Healdsburg, totaling over $6 million. In fiscal year '26, I provide a forecast to provide context for the near future. The balances here assume flat revenues and operating expenditures. It does not include committed funds for either Central or Rincon Valley or Roseland. And I could pause here for any questions.
Andy has his hand up.
Yeah,
Okay, move on.
no question, it's a miracle.
They're coming.
Okay, so, moving into the shortfall, as the library has discussed, and you are fully aware that in fiscal year '24, we were expecting a shortfall, but did not know the extent of that shortfall, because we were waiting for the last sales tax receipts to come in August. As of August 27, the total tax receipts were $15.6 million, which is $863,879 short against the fiscal year '24 adopted budget. And this shortfall does have impact on fiscal year '25 revenues. Okay, so now that we've looked at fiscal year end '24, what is the impact on the current fiscal year '25? There are 2 factors that require the need to revise the sales tax revenues for this year, and they are as follows. Okay, first, fiscal year '25 revenue projections assumed that the prior year targets would be met. Since there was a shortfall, that shortfall carries over into fiscal year '25. Second, the adopted budget assumed a growth rate for sales tax of 2.1%. And I have verified with the county that the updated growth rate is 1.02. So I'm proposing that we do the same. The primary driver of this variance, again, as I've mentioned before, is the volatile nature of sales tax revenue, and it is sensitive to external economic factors. The next slide goes over strategies to close the deficit, unless you have some questions.
Andy.
Okay.
Andy?
I just wanted to clarify something, Myrna, on the previous slide. Although we did have a shortfall in sales tax revenue for 23-24, I believe that overall we did meet our revenue target for 23-24. Is that correct?
That,
Yeah.
just shy of $15,000, yes.
Yeah, so it was specific to sales tax, not to our overall revenue. That doesn't change any of the other things you've said subsequently, but I just wanted to confirm that for the previous year, we did meet our overall revenue target. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very good question since, year end, the, property tax grants and interest revenue and other charges, overall altogether did help close the gap for sales tax, and therefore
Yeah.
we did essentially meet our target, overall target, yes.
It's a big increase in interest for us all.
Okay, great. Okay, so on the next slide, I review some strategies to close the budget deficit. Oh, well, first, to clearly show what will happen, this graph illustrates the deficit if we do nothing. Due to the projected shortfalls in sales tax receipts, the combined revenue under sales tax are projected to be less than approved, and the updated combined sales tax with interest and grants revenue is $16.2 million. And that is, as you can see on the chart. And if we make no change to operating expenditures, which is our current level, 17.1 million, the shortfall is 976,590. Next slide. Oh, shoot. Okay. So this chart goes into strategies. So here, column 1 explains the revenue or expenditure account. And the column 2 and 3 are the adopted budget for fiscal year 25. That is property tax, and sales tax. I don't like it. The fourth column is the proposed adjustments. As you can see, the top portion is the revenue, and I'm proposing to reduce sales tax to the updated projection of $15,753,783. To offset the shortfall of about $1 million, I'm proposing to increase interest earned revenue by $100,000. I have reviewed previous years, and generally we do receive over $300,000 annually in fund balance. $300,000 in interest earned. So I'm proposing to increase that by $100,000, and this still remains conservative. And the reason for being conservative is that interest revenue also is very sensitive to the markets, and so it's not the best idea to budget very closely, not knowing, how markets are going to be performing in the next 12 months for you.
Question on that.
David?
This month, soon, there'll be a significant cut at the federal level in interest rates. How will that trickle down, if at all, to the figure you suggested for increasing interest?
Well, like I said, over the last few years, we have consistently generated over $300,000 in interest, and that is, it's been volatile, it's ups and downs, and given our balances in our cash, that, right now I only budgeted 100,000. So I'm only increasing it by another 100,000. So I believe that that is still well enough conservative to meet that target. That, I can't project how much more will we receive or not. Sometimes I don't know how long it takes for all of these, changes to come down and affect our balances specifically.
I think what he's also asking though is, does it have the ability to negatively impact? Does the market, could that reduce, like we earn interest, but is there a possibility that we would lose money as a result of these changes?
Yeah, because the effective interest rates are gonna drop.
Well, that has been the case in prior years, so, at this time, I don't have an answer for you.
Neither does Wall Street, so wait and see.
Okay, any other questions?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, so that would leave, a revised total revenue, under sales tax, almost $6.3 million. Under expenditures, I plan to reduce, expenditures by reducing the contingency fund by $200,000. And the contingency fund is there for reasons like this, and so I'm proposing to reduce that. As you can see, the original, appropriation level was, over $700,000. So I'm proposing to reduce that by 200. So then the revised, non-capital expenditures or operating expenditures, as you can see, is $16.9 million. So when you compare the total revenue of 16.2 to the 16.9 expenditures, we still have a deficit of $676,590. The last one.
Oh, I get one more minute left.
Okay. So, however, at this time, I'm not recommending to use fund balance to close the gap. Fund balance is one-time funds, and if we do use one-time funds to close this type of imbalance, it could go into an ongoing structural deficit.
Which is not advisable.
Right.
No, not a good idea. We like balanced budget.
Agreed.
So, the budget balancing strategies, I have, pretty much the short term are for this fiscal year. I talked about interest revenue and reducing the contingency fund, but the remaining $676,000 is a cost savings plan, which means that, we have asked, division managers to each of the division managers to evaluate their budgets and to identify cost savings of $75,000 each. And the library director and I will be reviewing those proposals next week, and we plan to go to the commission with a staff recommendation for closing this budget gap.
Will that be in the October meeting?
Yes, October 9th.
Questions? I just wanted to say that, Meredith and I talked about this earlier in the week, and, I asked just the question if that was realistic to get $75,000 from each division, and you felt that it was, especially in, services and supplies with it, and so anyway, you both are gonna be reviewing these, and so it's kind of a short-term ask, a quick turnaround from the staff to get these numbers.
Yes, I feel that given, how last year ended with over $700,000 in savings in services and supplies, that there is room to make adjustments. I'm not purporting that it was an easy, exercise, but it is one that's necessary, and we are committed to looking at what the impacts are.
I gotta go.
Our thoughts and prayers go with you.
Sorry. I can say that I feel confident that we can find these savings, and we're not gonna just make, we are gonna look at all of the departments, and some departments may have more cushion than others.
Can you
It's a
speak,
great approach.
can you speak to this?
I can't.
Okay, do you want me to say anything?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
It's a good exercise for every department to,
Right, and one of
Yeah.
the things that we told them
Yeah.
is that this is an exercise, and I think it's prudent for everybody to look to see where they can cut costs, but also where they, can search for new revenues. Like, maybe there's a way to come up with other revenues. The other thing is to examine our projects to see, are there things that we're doing that maybe we should be sunsetting? So it's just I think it's a healthy
Yeah.
exercise, that we should be looking at all of the things that we do and making decisions and prioritizing the things that matter the most.
like weeding.
Yes, exactly. It's like weeding for your budget.
It's a good message to send out. Thanks, Erica.
Some people hate to weed.
Okay, back to Myrna.
Okay, so that concludes, my presentation. I did have a handout that was not in your packet that, looks at capital projects. And I don't know how I can share.
Share, so you can go into Zoom and share your screen. That,
Okay, how do I do that?
you have the document open on your,
Yes. Okay.
close that first. Did you get
I'm a
promoted?
participant.
Promoted you to panel.
You did?
Did you accept that?
No.
Try and. Okay, just promoted you, so you joined as a panelist. Now you can share.
Okay. All right. So what I have here is, oh shoot, I don't know. And we can make this bigger, right? Can you see that? That makes sense? Okay. So I wanted to, update folks on a very high level. You are muted, right?
Actually, you don't need to unmute,
Oh, okay.
because you're just sharing your
I
screen.
see. Okay, so I wanted to update the finance committee on a very high level, on our capital projects. But you will be receiving a much more detailed quarterly update in October. But the top list where it says section 1, these are the list of projects that were approved in fiscal, with some funding, level in fiscal year 25. And you see some notes on the side here. So Petaluma, Healdsburg are, full renovations of the branch libraries. Cloverdale is a patio, and it's been fully funded. We will be partnering with the foundation. There was a very significant, generous, donation made to cover the full cost of that project. Rincon Valley is, funding was, appropriated for planning, and evaluating that project, and Central as well. H&G has been fully funded, and, so has Rohnert Park. And then there were additional multiple projects that were mainly for furnishing and, information technology. these last two are new funds, but those that I listed, before that are, essentially rebudgeted from prior year. There were some delays in those projects. But the bottom portion where I'd like to draw your attention is that the latest information that I have is that that Petaluma, the projects of Petaluma and Healdsburg, given, that there have been, delays in those projects, has impacted, the cost of the projects. And the original budgets for them have been insufficient. In addition, there have been some, unanticipated, unforeseen costs, which have led to an increase to the budget. And what has shown here is, the budget gap, for both Petaluma and Healdsburg. These are still estimates. The facilities manager is working on, finalizing these figures and, getting a better cost estimate.
Could you point out exactly which column here represents the gap?
So, for example, in section 2, Petaluma says 1.3 million.
Mhm.
That's the gap. All of these numbers show an unfunded gap for Petaluma is $1.4 million. Healdsburg, 972,000.
Okay. Okay.
Those are the two projects we felt from our end were fully funded, and it turns out they're not fully funded.
Correct.
They're pretty significant, although Petaluma might come up with some money from some of the money that they.
Some bequests, yeah.
You had questions for Dave, for the remainder of the day.
Oh,
So is there anything I can answer?
well, if there are any questions that come up,
Okay, I was gonna say, otherwise I can
okay,
call him. Okay.
okay, we'll see.
Okay.
And Rincon Valley is, here as well. Only a couple $100,000 have been, appropriated. But since Rincon Valley may be a possible project, it is unfunded at this time of $1.9 million. The other two, Central and Roseland, come hand in hand. And, given the activity that has been, across the system with the different modernization projects, including Petaluma, Healdsburg, and that the new Roseland, library has a gap of $5.4 million. It has been added to our list for potential funding. It is ready to break ground. As you know, plans are being selected and contractor will be selected soon. So pretty much the $5.4 million is pretty concrete at this time. What?
So to speak, concrete.
And Central, on the other hand, we have no scope of work at this time for that. We did have it on the budget for $5 million, but, as, Chair McKenzie has pointed out, it's been there. We're not sure, no funding has been allocated really to it. It seems to be, how deep are we into, the Central project, Central branch, and, at this time, the library director, Tumult, has decided to remove the Central project off the list and add the new Roseland for the commission's consideration. So having said that, the total unfunded projects at this time is $9.6 million. I've allocated everything except for Roseland, because the other projects are allocated according to our allocation policy, 90% to sales tax, 10% to property tax. Roseland, since there were many questions about, which is the most appropriate funding, I've did not allocate it at this time. And, but it is taken into account, here to make sure that, you know, for discussion purposes.
So this report doesn't have our unfunded or, you know, unassigned fund balances carried over on this report, so I'm not,
Correct.
so.
The fund balance, the, statement of special fund activity, shows only the numbers for the adopted budget and those projects that have, and the funding that you see here in section 1 of $6.5 million.
So I just add up quick and dirty, 19.8 show, the combination of these two unassigned fund balance
Oh, yes.
things, it's 19.2. Because I've heard some commissioners talk about, we have $20 million, it's actually tiny, a little bit less than that. And then there's all this still to be accounted for. That's,
Yes, so, my hope is to update the commission next week at your special meeting with, a fund balance that would incorporate these unfunded projects.
so the,
And give, and also assuming that the commission adopts the cost savings plan.
let me open it up to questions before I make any comments. Questions? Andy, did you have any questions?
No, seems clear. Thank you, Barbara.
Okay. So I have, well, just to say I'm a little bit shocked here about the extra Petaluma and Healdsburg. You know, it's kind of shocking, you know, $2 million or so, and some of it might be offset, but we don't know that. That would have to go through approval. Is the lab that has control of those people? I think it is, at least some of the big ones in Petaluma.
They have to be known, and they have to be made aware if we propose to use any of those funds.
Right, so they have control, if I understand that lab, at least the one of those Cromwell or Hopewell, isn't it?
That's unusual.
I know, I'm almost sure of that, I thought Tim May had told me that. David, did you?
I understand. How could a lab control any funds?
When the donation was made, it was, you know, the old days in Petaluma was more of a standalone
Well, and the lab
library.
has control of those as dedicated donations. Yeah. Okay.
I'm just
Okay,
repeating
so
what
there's
Tim May-
different, Catherine is working on, specifically on, updating the requirements for the bequest, so do you wanna say something?
Sure, I was looking on that, and I believe that was Buckman's, bequest, that, and I believe he was the, part of the lab, and that one was used back, and I want to say used, so I think that's the one that was
Okay.
part of the lab.
So all the rest of the bequest funds, what's the process? I mean, we make a recommendation and who approves it?
In some cases, the bequester requested to, present it to the lab, and that they would make a recommendation for that. But essentially, if they approve the uses of it, then the commission would release it.
And most bequests do not go to the lab.
I can't say most, there's some that do, the one, or the Cundy does, you know, that's also in Sonoma Valley, but, yeah, but I don't know exactly which ones do and
Okay.
don't, but they vary.
Okay, yeah,
So we're gonna have at least
glad you're looking at that.
a report that's gonna show at least what, as we know, worst case scenario, or scenario that includes not being offset by bequests, and then we can show.
It's not gonna be a big number.
Okay. And so the Healdsburg, to me, is a shock, because it was only kind of a 2.2 million or something, and this is another million. This is a significant thing. It's like, where does this come from, and how do we suddenly know this from the last meeting that we had, commission meeting?
Well, I think what was before you in the commission meeting was the cost of the contract itself, and, and these were unforeseen costs, and I'd like to ask Dara if she has some additional.
Well, so we also, when we took this out to bid, went with the lowest bid, but all of them were significantly higher than what we had in it.
When do we get
For
the bids?
Healdsburg.
For
When do we get
Healdsburg,
the bids
yes.
back?
What's that?
When do we get the bids back? A while back or just? like
Yeah,
this
no,
year?
it's been about, for Healdsburg, I think that was about 2 months ago.
'Cause we were still talking about 2.2 at the last commission meeting, because I kept writing it down, because this is one of my questions, so. I'm not trying to put you on
This
the spot,
was,
it's
you
just-
know, this is, you're receiving information as I am receiving it. So I knew that there was a potential for cost overrun. I did not have a figure, and that's why we are here today, to give you the latest update that we have.
Andy, did you have a comment?
No, other than, this to me, is further indication that we can't get too far ahead of ourselves with the capital planning. I mean, the document that we had earlier, I think even looking out 3 to 5 years, pretty clear that construction costs are increasing at an unknown rate, and the longer things are delayed, the more they're gonna cost. So I think it's good that we're going through the exercise, but it kind of underscores the futility to me of trying to do detailed planning about stuff that's not gonna happen for more than 5 years out.
To me, it underscores the fact that we have very limited funds, and everything costs more than we think. And it underscores the issue with the MOU that we were talking about at the last commission meeting, where suddenly we're responsible apparently for all the change orders. And, you know, even with a $2 million contingency on a big project like this, you can see it's $1 million on a small project like Healdsburg, so.
Well, I don't think these were
Unanticipated.
change orders. I think this was just the bid was
The bid.
more than had been anticipated.
Right, but everything costs more. I mean, nothing's ever less than we budget for. So 9.6 of committed funds, at least, that we know about, some of which we just found out about, like, right now. And so our director is going to make the, proposal that instead of working on, we take central off the list. I said we've allocated 350,000, but none of that's been spent.
Some has been spent,
Oh.
for this year, only $80,000 has been, allocated in fiscal year 25.
And not spent?
Like I said, in October, you will get the details of how much
Okay.
has been spent on each project.
Could I ask a stupid question? What's it been spent on for Central? Generally, 80,000 is, you know, that's a significant amount.
I think, the facilities manager was hoping to start on the scope of design for plans on Central.
Hope is $80,000 worth?
No, I think it might be more, but,
I just wanna know what this represents. Does it represent documents generated? Does it represent meetings held?
We can find out.
Yeah, consult on potential,
As an example.
concepts, like concepts of how we could reallocate space in the building, how we could make it as modern and as updated as possible with the constraints of the current layout, that sort of thing.
These are architectural
It's yes, and it's
consulting kind of,
firm, yeah.
okay, would you, as CFO, like to summarize anything or make some points or suggest?
so this is just all goes hand in hand, again, with, the presentation that you saw on the fund balance, is that the fund balance that you saw does not include the budget adjustments that I just presented. That is around, about $1 million in the fund balance. And I wanted to present to you the update, of the capital projects so that you understand, in advance what you will be seeing, next month. And, you will also be getting an update on what these unfunded projects would mean to the fund balance.
And will we have the same presentation at our special meeting about Roseland? Will you be talking about this?
Yes, it will include this report because, again, the library is asking the commission to look at the MOU, and although there is still flexibility in the MOU as to the size of, the Roseland Library, there's a potential of closing the gap with $5.4 million of fund balance toward that
That's
project.
the question will be asked about at some point. But is that $5 million a set number? Or is it $5 million plus all the change orders and anything else? Is that a ceiling? We could make it a ceiling, I guess.
Yes, my understanding is that that's the gap that includes the contingency.
But that would all be really helpful, and to me, it'd be helpful, you're gonna, to share this report, to have a line item for our unassigned fund balances in both of these special funds, the top, and then we can see that this would be coming out of it, so.
Yeah, so bottom line is that you have your current, fund balance that you see today, you know, that big long chart, matrix that you received. You could, reduce, that fund balance by this $9.6 million if it's all approved. And then you would get the remainder.
Roughly 10 million
Yes.
for everybody else and all of our other needs. So any questions? Or,
Does Andy have any? Andy, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. This seems clear. Thank you.
great, so do you want to go back and get us to make a recommendation to the commission about your plan for the, shortfall?
Yes, if you have any feedback at all, it will be helpful as we review all of the proposals from each of the division managers, and, we'll make a recommendation to you. So any feedback, concerns, questions?
Yeah, I think it's a fine plan.
Sorry?
I said, I think it's a fine plan.
Does anybody want to make a motion? I don't know if that requires a show of hands, but consensus on supporting, our CFO's recommendation to close the shortfall? Thumbs up from me. And Andy's up, okay, so.
Yeah, I don't think we can actually make a motion, but I think you can convey to the rest of the commission that we were all generally in favor.
We were educated and we were supportive, and we appreciate all of that. Very excellent explanation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No layoffs.
Okay.
Okay.
We're on to, fiscal year 24-25 August monthly reports, and then we will conclude. Back to you, CFO.
Oh, so I invited Catherine to
Okay,
present.
Catherine. Great, welcome to the table.
All right,
Okay, you're on.
thanks. This report includes the monthly financial reports for fiscal year 25
as of August 31st, 2024. August marks 2 months or 17% of the fiscal year. Total actual revenues as of August 31st, 2024 are $237,809,000. This is a combination of some property tax and other income. Property tax receipts are driven by the property tax billing cycle due in December and April. Sales tax receipts for August are received in October. July are received in September. And then the expenditures, salaries and benefits, actual expenditures were $400,997,798, approximately 6.4% of the total budgeted. Service and supplies, actual expenditures were $2,359,853, or 16.6% of the total budget. The library's total capital expenditures are $354,728, or 11.8% of the capital budget. For the fund balance, the statement of special fund activity shows the fund balance. However, the fiscal year 24 year-end statement is currently under revision due to the purposes of the audit.
I just want to make a correction.
Oh,
It's, you can look at the statement in the last, item, and, that will show the fiscal year 24. Yeah.
And,
Unaudited as of, was it June 30th?
yes. So we're still waiting for, the target. Hopefully by the end of September, we'll have the audited financials.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions before I ask my question? Okay.
Andy?
Andy, did you have your?
No,
Okay.
yeah,
Um,
no question.
I just have one question. One of the only things that I see that we're over, more than 17% would be the other contract services. And it's, like maybe almost double what we would, then we would expect by this point in time, I guess. But the year-to-date is $327,000, and it's only it's 2 months worth, right? So that's quite a bit of money, but none of those seem to hit the $50,000 mark because they're not listed on our payments, voucher payments over $50,000. So could you just give us an idea of what those contracts are? There's a whole bunch of them?
I know that, usually the library pays some of our contracts and some, like our subscriptions at an annually, so that may be what's causing the increase at this point in time. Those should even out by the end of the fiscal year. I could, take a look at it to make sure, but that's what most of those, like I said, the library pays annual subscriptions.
I thought that was under books and subscriptions, and I'm talking actually about other contract services.
Right, depending on what it,
If it's for our collections, it's normally under subscription.
but if
They're
other,
books. Subscriptions for books and things like, and periodicals are under books and
Right,
materials.
but, I'm not.
But other contracts would include, I think, like,
IT,
they're all IT, they're under all of our IT, could be licenses for,
all of our,
Various
platforms, our software, those
software.
kind of,
Okay.
Legal fees.
Just for my education and anyone else is interested, I'd like to see a report, since it is just so early in the year and it's double what we'd expect, and it probably answers all the questions, but I'd just like to see it, because, they don't show on the 50,000. And any other questions? Okay, how about, we have our work plan, so we know, from our CFO's point of view, what we're going to be, just something else there? Okay.
No, I was just asking about another thing under that same umbrella you just asked about.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. So we know, the work plan, what we're gonna be dealing with next month. Does anybody have any suggestions for any other topics they'd like to discuss? Finance committee meeting. Okay, I need a gavel.
Use
Where's-
this.
Oh, yeah, good. Meeting adjourned, thank you all.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate all the
Fun,
work.
Andy.
Yeah.
Deborah, I
Is
wanna-
Andy leaving for the?
Thank you.
Deborah?
Yeah, I'm leaving.
Bye.
And I'll be back for next month's finance committee and meeting, and I'll be there in person.